Morgan Wilson was a man who was just like all of us. And just like all of us, one day it will be ashes to ashes and dust to dust. But hold up a second. You don't think that's the end, do you? Just like all others, Morgan Wilson had an outstanding appointment with eternity. He entered a mode of existence unlike anything he'd experienced on earth, unknown to him. It was the day of judgment. One by one, the waiting souls were called to the door. When Morgan's turns came, he passed through the door, and what he saw took his breath away. His eyes strained to take in the beauty and the majestic appearance that was before his eyes. And directly before him stood a great white throne, and he looked into the face of the one that sat on it, and he was undone. The face radiated pure love and infinite sorrow at the same time. And in that instant, Morgan realized that his face, this being, had somehow always been the reality behind every longing he had ever had. The man's hands were scarred, as if they had been impaled by some sharp instrument. Morgan realized that he was in the presence of Jesus Christ. In a rich, pure voice, Christ called Morgan by name, Morgan. And Morgan was drawn forward like a magnet. He noticed 6 books stacked beside the throne. Christ picked up the first one, and Morgan got a glimpse of its title, the Book of the Law. Christ opened the book and placed it on his lap. Morgan Wilson, he said, what do you have to say regarding your life on earth? In spite of his violent trembling, Morgan found his voice and said, well, I tried my best to obey your laws. And when I think of other people that I know, I figure I did it a little better than most. My dear Morgan, these laws are not ways for you to earn merit. No one can earn salvation by keeping the law. It is my free gift to those who love me. Then Morgan asked, if you knew I couldn't keep the law, why did you inflict it on me? It was a diagnostic tool, a standard you could compare yourself to. But instead of using the law to diagnose your condition, you tried to make it your cure. And all that did was allow your disease to fester. Christ closed the book of the law and picked up the next volume, Morgan Wilson's Book of Works. According to this book, you did none of these things with my glory in mind. You drew all the glory to yourself. Your public deeds made you look like you were dedicated and noble, and people praised you for them. That was the reward you saw, and that was the reward you got. Therefore, you need no reward from me. Christ closed the book and reached for the next one, Morgan's Book of Secrets. As he opened the cover, Morgan's apprehensions grew. So far, things had not gone well for him. He trembled to think what these pages might reveal. You have a lot of entries in this book, Christ said. Let's look at some of the things you did in secret. As I looked over your entries, I see consistent infractions. Whenever you thought the police wasn't around, you habitually drove over the speed limit. Oh, please, be reasonable, Morgan pleaded. That was such a teeny insignificant thing. Everybody did it. Insignificant may be, but that was the law of your land, which you were charged to obey. And all of these acts undermine your claim to respect the law. Such cavalier disobedience, even disrespect of the law, show you had no real respect for the law at all. but nothing I did ever hurt anyone. No. How much did your porn viewing and adultery destroy the intimacy of your marriage? What did your tampering with those AC systems cause families who couldn't afford it? How much did your lawless driving endanger others on the road? The bottom line is that you did your good works in public and your evil ones in secret. You should have done the opposite, Morgan. Christ shook his head and closed the book. He picked up the next one, Morgan Wilson's Book of Conscience. Hope drained from Morgan's heart. He dreaded what this book might reveal. You replaced the voice of your conscience with another. The voice of self-justification. The voice convinced you that both your porn indulgence and your secret affairs were justified, shutting down your conscience, allowing you to replace the truth with self-justifying lies you told yourself. Those lies became your truth. You convinced yourself that God would not condemn anyone who believed anything sincere. He finally gave you over to your desires and allowed you to be deceived by your own lies. Morgan is now in utter despair, grabbing at one last strand for hope. He remembered grace. He would make a plea for God's grace, which he had been told was vast enough to cover all sins. Maybe that's why this last unopened book is so enormous, he thought. It's so large, it's so big. Maybe it's the book of grace. And Jesus reached over and picked up the heavy volume. And the title read, "This is the Book of Life." The name of every person ever born has been entered into. Tragically, however, many of the names no longer appear. They have been blotted out. Jesus turned slowly through the pages, scanning each one, finally closed the book and looked at Morgan and said, "I'm sorry. Your name is not in it. You do not belong to me. You must be banished from my presence forever." As your books have already shown, you did the visible things that brought you praise. Everything you did was for you, not for the love of others. You cannot love me if you do not love others. You never loved me, Martin, though you wore my name. You are an imposter. You said the right words, but your heart belonged to you. "But what about grace?" Morgan cried. "Can't you give me grace?" "My grace was always available to you. All you had to do was place your trust in me and make me the Lord over your life. Had you done that, Morgan, had you done that, my grace would have freely covered your sins and failures. But you never surrendered yourself and allowed me into your heart. Therefore, you never knew me, and I never knew you." One of the bright beams approached and led Morgan toward another door. This door was dark and ominous, and on the far side of a great hall, there he was thrust into darkness. He heard nothing but horrible sounds, weeping and gashing and gnashing of teeth. He was isolated from all humanity, who he would be forever in all eternity. He had loved himself. He had made himself the most important entity in his life. Now in death, he had been granted exactly what he always loved the best, the company of himself and nothing else forever.